Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to the Journey of My Mother's Son podcast. I'm joined again by Michelle Delloso. Michelle, thanks for taking the time to do two podcasts with me.
My pleasure.
So the last one, we talked about your career with Silver Bullets, and at the end, we gave a little bit of a teaser as to what this podcast is going to be about. And, you run, we'll start with Go Girl first, and then we can talk about Rim to Rim later. But just kind of turn it over to you and, tell me about Go Girl. Why does it exist? Why do you want to do it? Have at it.
Absolutely. So I wanted to put a brand and a face. This is the new logo, and kind of a title to what I was doing already, right? So when I left the Bullets, I went back into my calling, and I ended up going to work for Louisville Slugger for 5 years and Adidas for 10. And as part of those positions, I was always doing a little bit of cause work, I was in a decision-making role, so I was able to kind of be the one that would put the sponsorship checks out there. And I always felt like it was certain events, like we could do it a little bit better, right? So I already had kind of the theme of the Go Girl Futures program, which would be creating opportunities for girls and women through sport. But specifically, it started with showcase events. So when I was with Adidas, that's kind of when the program began, is we just needed like a third party entity, which was my nonprofit, to kind of come in and be the beneficiary and pick up the tab for the dinner, because I didn't want the kids to have to pay anything. I wanted to build an experience, which, Dan, in event management, running tournaments, and the business that's out there. I wanted an event where an underdog like me, that their family didn't have the money, and they believed in their dreams so adamantly that they had that chance, right? So that's where the Go Girl Futures program started, is really as that format of a nonprofit, joining with other nonprofits, giving it kind of an umbrella, where all the other teams were kind of under the mission of it. And it stayed focused in softball for quite some time, especially when I was with Adidas. And then when, Adidas just budget cuts, they cut my position. I just kept it running. And then it turned into opportunities for girls through all sports. And we still kept an event in Boulder through the grace of Dan Burns and his crew over there. They're a non-profit organization. So we partnered on a showcase event that to this day still remains free for the kids. So that's kind of what that program is. And then it's been a theme for my own life. I keep showing you this. I don't know if you caught it, if you look closely, because this is really the logo, right? Go Girl, right? This is the logo. But I keep like subliminally showing this, like, this is God Girl. Like, I feel like my faith is in the midst of all of this, and it's become the brand, and kind of the theme is really this energy that's within you, this calling that's within you, this making the voice loudest in your head. It's something I want to instill in all of our girls, right? And then they become Go Girls, right? And the step further is their faith, right? If they could add some kind of faith, whatever it is, right? They add to it, then they're God Girls, right? They're their own person. They're Michelle, the person, not the label, and that's kind of my own journey of where I'm at today, is just really focused on opportunities for girls and women. And then on the flip side, Rim to Rim, my father unfortunately became very ill in 2008, and I live in Utah now. I'm from Pennsylvania, and I moved my mom and dad out here in '08 with me, right up the street. And my dad became very ill, lost his sight, so he became blind. And it was a very difficult chapter for our family. And he passed in 2010. And I hit the pause button. I was still doing, my events and working for Adidas, but I knew it was time to pause. And I always wanted to hike the Grand Canyon from rim to rim, especially living out here amongst all the canyons. And I called one of my childhood friends, teammates, softball player, Sandy Shea, and said, "Hey, would you hike rim to rim with me?" And we did. And like, literally, this is like a picture of the trail. And I fell in love with the hike. And I thought, how cool would it be to have a club and a forum to inspire other hikers and educate them and make sure that they have as good of an experience as we did. And between both of those, they honestly became another calling in my life, another passion project. And soon after going through that, my mom became ill, and she passed in 2013. And I parted ways with Adidas, through budget cuts in 12. So in a way, both of those programs became critical in sustaining my purpose in my life. So that's what I've been up to ever since. Dabbled in a couple things here and there, but always with the core values of still continuing to honor my calling and my purpose.
So what was there any specific like aha moment for you that, made you see the bigger picture?
At like a younger age, or?
Yeah. Yeah, anytime when you started the Go Girl stuff, or was there a specific kind of light bulb moment, or?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. I always remember the kid. I just couldn't afford camp. Our family, we just didn't have the discretionary funds. We just didn't have it to go to like an extra camp for like basketball to hone my skills. And then I was such an underdog, in Pennsylvania. And if it wasn't for a coach, Doug, that, he read, I guess, my high school success that kind of came and got me out of Chalfont, came up to Quakertown, and literally physically would find me transportation. I wouldn't have had that trajectory, that journey to chase my dreams the way they truly were destined to be chased. So my aha moment was, I will not pursue the rest of my life without making it better for the next generation of kids and Michelle's. Like, I will use everything in my power for the success that I attain to make it happen. So all I had to do, Dan, was really, as you know, in events, is just brand it. Like, give it a program name, give it a brand, give it something other than the Michelle Delloso Foundation or the Michelle. It's never been like, I've never wanted my name behind like that. It's just always been, I'm a marketer. It's always been like, give it something that's not you, that could sustain you. So that was my aha moment. It's like, you're a go girl, right? You're a go girl. Like, you go girl, right? Like, just name it that. And then with Rim to Rim, it was just the club, right? And then the slogan is it's a Cocapelli. So it's this little guy right here. He's a little Cocapelli. So short for, you want to shorten Coco, keep on keeping on. It's been my mantra. So those kind of were my aha moments, is kind of take what's keeping you, what's fueling you, and just kind of brand it.
Yeah. So something I can relate to, quite a bit with, the change that my wife and I are getting ready to take on, and, everything that we've been through over the past couple of years with, with our organization and everything. And with the nonprofit that I was with, we too had a very strong focus on being able to provide for kids without means. So one of the things that we had started a few years ago with our baseball and softball programs was the players didn't have to pay a registration fee to participate. They would actually, they were required to give us community service hours. And it was kind of on a sliding scale depending on their age. And, I noticed again how many doors that opened for kids who would never have that opportunity. I mean, before we were recording, I kind of told you the story about Aneshka and, how she's now gotten a college scholarship offer. And, she would have never been able to play in our program if we were, your typical pay to play model, $1,000 a season or $2,000 a season and that sort of stuff. So, as you've kind of built this Go Girl brand, have there been any, and I'm sure there's been many, but is there any one particular athlete that, you almost get that, yeah, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing type of feeling?
Absolutely. Well, I've been fortunate. And again, thank you for the work that you've done. I loved hearing that story about her. That's why we do what we do. Let's be honest. That's why we do it. So there's been several athletes that because of our program, especially when it was branded Adidas Futures, right? And then remember, Go Girl Future Program is just a way of being the beneficiary of making sure that it remains nonprofit. There's an opening dinner that was paid, and then it was paid for, so the girls didn't have to pay anything. And then it turned into the event in Boulder where everything remained free for the kids. Several kids went through the program, and yes, I've heard from many of them, right? But more importantly, there's been interns. So I took it a step further of like, I'm not going to just leave them when they make it to college, right? I'm going to bring them back if they want to intern in any capacity. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. So last year I took an intern. We did a no cost event for underprivileged youth, and we took them on a hike, right? Took a student athlete, right? And ran them through the program. I had another athlete that came back, okay, Jenna Stark. And she went through our program as an athlete and then came back as an intern. And then went on to play at A&M, and now she's a firefighter, and got involved with just seeing her opportunity happen in college, but then making sure like you're there on the other end, that you're following up and kind of seeing dreams come to fruition. So I think it's more on the step back, like you read the articles or the parents send you the articles, right? This is what my daughter's doing. Thank you for that. And that's kind of where our stories come from is, with NCAA rules and restrictions, I can't utilize their name and likeness, and I don't. So I don't have like the stories on the site just because of that. But we've had several athletes that have gone on from our opportunity that wouldn't have. They would have never had the scholarship. They never would have went to school to play, and then they never would have pursued what would be their future in life. And that was just what the goal was, is just make it better for them. Just build an opportunity for somebody that wouldn't have it without you, and mentor and coach. Yeah. Open the door, just open the door, but make sure it stays open.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's so awesome. Let's shift a little bit to the Rim to Rim Club. What got you involved in hiking in the first place? I mean, I guess the other part of that question is what got you from Quakertown to Utah?
Yeah, I love that. This is where now you're going to get me because now I'm in my zone. I came out here in 2005 to Utah. And as you know, through sport, it is required to travel a ton, right? Well, if you're in marketing for a brand, you're going to travel just as much because you're going to all those sporting events to either brand them, market them, run events, etc. So I was already traveling a ton. And what I love to do that I always did free of charge, I still have friends that are like, why are you not charging to speak at these events? But what I would do to kind of land the sponsorship and make sure that I was really running Go Girl well before its time, as I always do, wise beyond my years. But when I would get involved in a tournament, I would say, listen, we're going to sponsor it. We're going to come in as a sponsor. And I'm sure you have opening ceremonies. Yeah, we do. Do you need a keynote? Or I would already be asked to be the keynote. Yeah, Michelle. And I'm like, don't worry about paying me. I will do it. Right. Or I was partnered, or I'd take one of my athletes. If I was lucky and I had them, most of the time they were playing, the Olympians were playing during the season, summer. So I had to be able to deliver the keynote, or I partnered. And this particular one, I was on my own because it was part of the season. And it was July 2005, came out here for Adidas to Utah to run an event, did the keynote. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong day in an event. Power was out. Mike was out. Everything was going wrong. I still had to exhibit the first 6 hours in my booth. And finally, an aha moment, everything goes on, right? It just air conditioned. I mean, you don't want 15,000 people in a room in 115 degree heat. It all goes on. I deliver what was one of my best, one of my goals is speak to the largest crowd that will listen. One of my best speeches. And then the next morning, as it is usually in Utah, everything's closed down on a Sunday. And I still had to work the week as an exhibitor and as a sponsor. I went for a bike ride in Snow Canyon State Park, right? What would be right by my house, right? That made all this happen. And I was reminded, it was a nice pause because I'm so busy. I was so busy in the summers back then. and you're coming off a high from speaking, doing an event, you're already on a high. Well, right. And I go on this bike ride early morning, and I feel God speaking to me saying, move here. And what it reminded me of at the peak of my career, when I'm busy, is it reminded me of when I was a child in Quakertown, and I would just ride my bike kind of really before I was in sports. And I just had a joy of like being in the outdoors. And I know when I went to Colorado every summer for my events, I would quest that. I knew I wanted a mountain life, a canyon life, but I was also in my career where I couldn't make it happen. So that was my epiphany. I heard move here, and then it just tugged me. And I'm like, I can't let this go. So I called my bosses and I said, would you care if I moved from Atlanta to Utah? And they're like, not at all, as long as you could do your work. And then that was when I felt like instead of making a living, I began making a life. So I started hiking and biking, and through that kind of knew I was ready to do rim to rim. And you kind of, as a hiker, it's like sports, Stan. You have these goals. Well, as a hiker, you have these pinnacle moments. Like, I want to hike rim to rim of the Grand Canyon. And then, of course, in 2010, when it was like seeing my dad's last breaths, and like, you gotta pursue this goal. And then knowing how well it went, just like sports, my college career went so well. It's such a great experience at South Carolina. You want others to have that same experience. You want to duplicate it. So that's what happened with Rim to Rim, is I wanted to kind of share that love and that passion and have other people share their stories, right? It's kind of it's same thing, same concept. Make it better, educate them, have a landings page where, they can find out the logistics. But in a way, it also helps me to continue my passion projects, my purpose, because I'm needed, right? I'm now, well, I've hiked it, right? I've been out there a ton now. So you're needed. So you continue to, like, probably yourself as a event organizer and as a coach, you want to continue to kind of spread that joy of the outdoors. So for me, it's changing lives through sport and the outdoors, and those two passion projects allow me to do that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, how much did you, being out in the outdoors and getting more involved in hiking and that sort of stuff, how much did that build in your spiritual life?
Well, first of all, I love what you and your wife are about to embark on. I cannot describe in words the difference that it's made in my life at the darkest time. It was hiking, and then I realized, like, I enjoyed camping, but I didn't want to, like, pop up a tent with scorpions and, with rattlesnakes and all out here, right? So I was like, shortly after my mom passed, I bought a trailer and I educated myself on hauling the trailer. But what it did is I became very empowered as a woman, because I wanted to do it alone. I didn't want anyone to help me. It was like, teach me how to hook up the trailer and let me go. So to answer that, it was a trailer, then it was a smaller van. Now it's my camper van. I've gone all over the Southwest. I just came back from going cross country after having a really tough health year last year. It's just God and I out there. So my faith was this choice of falling in love with the canyons, and the calling really was just God tugging me to get closer to him. And I have. And I think I showed you. A good friend of mine gave me this, JR, one of my childhood friends that I love so much. He sent this at Christmas to me. It's Comfort Cross, and he had blessed. And I had such a tough year last year, 50 doctor's appointments. Was diagnosed with a disease, came back from a broken back. Long story short, I was by myself battling this, going through the same doctor's appointments my mom and dad went through, same hospitals, medical emergency on the road, all my fears, Dan, ER by myself. And JR sends me this, and I'm like, I'm going in that van. I'm going to walk with the Lord even more. I'm gonna sell everything. And I think you and I talked about this. You're being public with it. I will too then, because you're showing me your vulnerability. I'll show you mine. I put everything I love on the line. My soulmate, which is the canyon, my house. I was, take it, Lord, take it. Kind of the Abraham, Isaac. if this is what's holding me back, if this is why I'm sick, if this is why there was a darkness in my life of closed doors, take it all. I'm going with you because you've already prepared me, you know? And it was like as if I was going ahead of everyone before this pandemic, right? There was an unrest.
Yeah.
So I take this comfort cross, and in 2 days I land on the East Coast, buy a tiny house, you know, live near my college roommate for a little bit. It was only supposed to be a little bit. We don't know. We don't know God's timing. I was able to check that off my bucket list of, you know, being near her. And the outdoors taught me to know when to listen and when to go, right? Like when you're just in complete silence, whether you're driving in your RV or you're on a trail, just listen. Listen to the birds. You get that there. You get that driving those long distances, and you get it on the trail. Just listen or reflect or be inspired. Dream up. Half my ideas are out on there, the trail or riding.
Yeah.
And then you can do, right? Then you're like, okay, God seeded me with this gift. So how I answer that is, it's not even an answer, right? It's just, it's a challenge to everyone right now, because I went through the unrest for 7 years when my mom died, and my whole base camp became undone of like, I'm going to lose everything I love. It was my dad, my dog, my job, my health, and my mom. Like it all happened so fast. And then my health continued to battle. And it was my faith in the Lord, bar none. Because a true friend walks in when the rest of the world walks out. When you don't have the titles behind your name, Dan, you no longer can give people free shoes, free bats. You're no longer a title to them. They can't, what can they get from you? And you're like, here's my faith. It's free. I want the shoes, or I want the connections to all your college coaches. That was a very dark period, because I was realizing, whoa, it's pretty lonely out here. God, are you sure we got this? And of course, now what are we in? We're in, for some, a darkness, right? Like nobody really knows what's going to happen. And this is when I'm like, oh boy, this is faith. This is holding the cross.
Yeah.
I'm non-denominational. Like, go find your faith right now. Pause everything that you thought was promised to you tomorrow and let that go, and go find your faith. If you're still working for a scholarship, work harder. You don't need the coaches right now. Go get the mattress up in the room like I did when I didn't have somebody. Throw, practice, take that inner armor, take that inner spirit, go build it. But listen, be guided by something within you, not these external forces, not the media, this is when you are to coach yourself. And maybe that's why you and I we talked about the purpose of these podcasts. And of course, there's going to be people watch. It's great, but maybe this is the message, is like, listen to this right now and hear it from, I'm just a messenger. My title was Silver Bullet, Go Girl, Rim to Rim, Adidas, But I'm right now as a messenger saying, go find that place that you can listen to that inner tug and that inner voice, and listen to that. And then when we hit play again, you better take that and then resume, because you're going to be better for it. So that's kind of what I'm doing.
The listening part is so incredibly important. And it's funny because, again, before we started recording, you and I were talking a little bit, over the past couple of years when I've been walking a lot. And again, we've got a little South Mountain YMCA not far from here. So, I'll take my dog up there and we'll walk up there, and there's a beautiful overlook. But even just around our house, there's a lot of, nice country area that we can get a good walk in. And, it's funny, a lot of times I'll go and I'll have my MP3 player, because I'm a big lover of music and everything, and it's funny where there's times where I'll go to grab it, and then all of a sudden the battery's dead, and it's like, I'll say my dog's name is Uke. It's named after Kevin Youkilis, the old Red Sox third baseman. So I'll say to him, "Oh, hey Uke, God wants us to listen to the birds today," or whatever, and yesterday morning was one of those days where we got up early, went to grab the MP3 player, and it's funny because I know I had just charged it, and all the battery's dead, and it shouldn't have been dead,
Yeah.
But I'm like, okay, So we just got out and walking, and again, it was early in the morning, and you can just hear, the birds singing. And, most of the time when I'm walking is my prayer time as well, so I'm just walking and just, talking to God, and then just, again, listening to, the birds and whatever he's, trying to tell me, whether it's, we go past a stream and we stop and listen to the stream or whatever the case is. And it's amazing, if you allow it, to listen to that and to get out in nature. And I think that's part of what, this next journey for my wife and I, is going to be, to really, get us even, more deeply rooted spiritually. And it's funny, when my mom decided to do this, I never really asked her why. And it's one of the things where, now I kind of wish I would have, as I look back on it. Because again, she had passed back in 2005. But I was telling another friend about that, as we were talking about this journey. And I said, I do wish now, as I look back, that I would have had a little bit more of a conversation with Mom when she, decided to do this. And she said, well, I think maybe as you start your journey, you might find some of those answers on your own. And like I said, last year when I drove to, Dallas and Louisiana and then down to Orlando, I found a lot of those answers then. But even yesterday when Sandy and I took the RV out to Harrisburg, same thing. We, just that kind of drive and the serenity. And it was only, an hour and a half, hour and 45-minute drive. But, this morning, she had said to me, that did me a lot of good, just, that little kind of track, because again, we've all been cooped up in the house for, for so long, that to just get out on the road for a little bit was pretty cool. So,
well, it's the distraction, Dan. We're so, prior to this, I knew it, I felt it. And it's when you're coming off the trail, you're coming from what I just came from, which you'll get to experience. You're not as connected with people because they're so distracted. They're on the phone and I notice this when I'm on the phone with people, they're doing 50 million things. And it's almost disrespectful, because I was raised like, you be present when you're on a phone call. And I'm like, whoa, like this is not the world. I'm so used to being present that I'm coming in. And then when I'm coming in, I'm giving somebody my time. I felt like they were so busy. And now there's no excuse to and I think that's what this teaches us, and really to a good point, because I think you have such great adventures, and I think your mom, you're going to feel the presence of your mom out there. I really feel strongly that we go back and losing parents wondering, I went through all of our photos and wondering, like, why didn't I stop and pause and look through the photos and ask my parents, like, what was this like? Well, it's the journey. Like, we don't stop and ask of others' journeys. Like, we don't even stop and look at our own journey. And I think this is our opportunity to remind us of that. And even as a competitor, as a player, like, think of all the parents or the kids that'll watch maybe this, right? Or one parent that'll watch it. And those road trips when they're putting the pods in and they're watching, they're instantly putting on a video. What I remember most about my journeys, all of those years, from playing with the Bullets to playing youth softball, were the conversations on those trips and the memories we made on those trips and the fun times we had just being present with them. Yeah, there's times you want to put the earphones in before a game and you got to go into that inner space. That's what I do now on the trail, right? When I've got to like zone in, maybe it's music or maybe it's just listening. But in between all that is life. And it's being present for others.
Yeah.
So I think all of these are, this is lesson time. This is life lesson time. And I think, I can't wait for you to come out here. you and your wife, like, you're either going to be out here or maybe back in Pennsylvania seeing you. Like, we're going to meet up, Dan. There's no doubt about it. And I like I said, I recommend everyone do it. Take a pause in their life, go on the road or go on the trail and just be one with you and whatever you believe in. And just listen for those sounds and those inner voice, that inner voice and whatever else, like you said, the birds, like just be present and get away from the distractions. And you're going to start finding a happiness and a bliss out there.
Yeah. I really hope with this time we're we've all been forced to pause. And I think, like you had said, I mean, even before this had happened, my wife and I were at that spot, where it was time to, get out of the rat race and find ourselves again. But I certainly hope that, if one thing good comes of this pandemic is that, people do take the pause and, are a little bit more appreciative, don't take things so much for granted, and again, really do understand how to connect with people again, because I think that's something that, as great as technology is, I mean, what we're doing right now is awesome that, we can sit here and you're in Utah and I'm in Pennsylvania, we can see each other, we can talk. But it's all about balance too. You can't let that technology,
That's it.
overcome you. Just like, we talked a little bit about youth sports and, how this became such a grind for some of these kids, and again, being in the event organization business and, seeing the best and the worst of both worlds, seeing how it was really just totally taken over some of these kids' lives. And you sit and wonder, is this really what it's supposed to be about? And it's not. It's about teaching those life lessons. It's about, making them understand, to forget about a mistake and move on. That's what sports is supposed to teach us, not, hey, I'm working so hard because I, need to get a scholarship. But then all of a sudden you find out if you don't get the scholarship, what do you have left to fall
That's
back?
it.
So
That's it. The prize. The pursuit of the prize has become. I played six sports in high school. Like different times was a different sport that for various reasons, and I always say that like it was always joyful sport. It was never pressure.
right,
And what I see today, I think that's why I started as well the program and the initiatives I did is to remind parents and be that voice for those kids. Like stop with this laser focus on that prize because you're ruining the experience. Like they're not going to know how to deal with failure and adversity, and you're losing the reason why you pick up a ball is pure joy and the lessons.
Yep.
And a team sport is to learn how to work with others and be there for others. And somewhere along the way, we have to get better at that. We have to because I know what I see out there with the business of sport and
Yep.
especially youth sports. Dan, you know it with the showcase events and the signing kids so early. And come on, we've lost sight of that. It's been about this for quite some time, and I've always despised that because I'm like, at the heart of it, youth sports should, bar none, always be about the joy and the lessons for the kids. And that is it.
Yep.
That is it. And
Yep.
as adults, we kind of get a pass right now to be kids. Like we do. We're like kind of expectation office right now, right? So go take the RV and ride on, man. Keep on keeping on. I can't wait to see you on the road.
We're looking forward to it, and definitely looking forward to meeting up with you in person and maybe I don't know if we'll go rim to rim, but we'll definitely do some.
We'll take you on a nice little walk in the park.
There you go. So we're just about out of time, and like I said, the title of the podcast is "The Journey of My Mother's Son" for obvious reasons. But then I have a subtitle: "Many Little People, Many Little Places," which is really derived from the opening lyrics of a Michael Franti song called "Gloria," and those. That line starts out, "When many little people, many little places do many little things, then the whole world changes." And so I'd always like to ask my guests, what is one of the things that you're most proud of? One of the little things that you're doing to make the world a better place.
To inspire. I mean, I always felt that was my calling, and everything that I do is if I can inspire one person and make a difference in the lives of one person, then I'm honoring my calling. So that's how I can, make a difference.
Very cool. So again, if give some website addresses here. If somebody wants to reach out to you and do rim to rim and hike the canyon from rim to rim, give that website, what's involved in that, and then just go back and give the Go Girl website as well.
Yeah, so Rim to Rim Club, and the website's rimtorim.org. And then the Go Girl Futures program is gogirlprogram.com. And then default could always be my name, michelledelloso.com, and it'll forward you to Go Girl Futures program, which will have a link to Rim to Rim. We're all in it together right there.
Cool. And just before we sign off, with Rim to Rim, that's not something that someone who's never hiked in their life is going to give you a call and say, hey, I want you to take me rim to rim. What's a little bit of the planning and training that goes behind hiking rim to rim out there?
Right. So what's great about my website, it's free, right? The resources are free. So the Hike It page, which you can go to the link, drop down, that gives you all the information. You know, most people train about a year for the hike. Currently, the national park's closed. Word is that they'll soon reopen. So most people have been training literally a year for this hike. And on that Hike It page, we give you, the tips for the hike and the training and the logistics of it. And as well, I recently in February started Soul Seekers Travel, because I do think that we're all, soul seekers. And that's also on the website. They can link over to me if they want kind of a paid version, like all the true insights of like, Michelle, no, truly, where should I stay over here? More like if you can't get this logistically, kind of my insight from being in the South, Southwest. They can kind of do a paid trip. So I offer that as well. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, the other stuff's free first.
Cool. Well, Michelle, I'm so happy that we connected, and we have so much in common. I think we could probably talk for hours and not get bored with it. So, definitely looking forward to, don't be surprised if you get a text sometime saying, hey, we're in Utah. We'll be there soon, and connect with you and have a meal and take a walk on the canyon there with you. So I really appreciate the time, and look forward. I hope this podcast, as some people reach out to you, to do that hike or to get involved in the Go Girl program, because I think they're both amazing programs that can really help and inspire people and help them along their own journey as well. So and again, folks, as always, check out my latest blogs and podcasts at danclouser.com. Michelle, again, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today.
Thank you, Dan. And I'm going to probably have one of my friends stick a bag of Wawa pretzels and tasty cakes in that RV, just so you know, wink, wink, when you come out. There you go. There you go. You know all about it, being from Pennsylvania.
No doubt. All right. Thanks a lot, Michelle.
You got it.